Hey YouTube, I'm Brian from the Whiskey Library.
I'm Tim from the Whiskey Library.
And I'm Sniff from ScotchNSniff. And we're here today to talk about something awesome. This is something that I haven't gotten to enjoy yet. I'm going to get to it. But Brian and Tim have done a couple times over, and that is 3 times over? 4 times over?
A couple times.
A few times.
Things are in process.
These bottles are actually from their own barrels that you guys purchased.
Right.
So how about you guys walk us through barrel purchasing process?
Sure. So, I mean, I think there are a few distilleries out there that have a barreling program or a single bottling program. What they allow you to do is they allow you to come out and either taste through some samples, either at the distillery, or they can sometimes bring them to you through one of their reps. And through that process, you're able to actually select your own barrel. And what that means is that you buy the entire contents of that barrel. They're bottled in the same basic bottle that the distillery uses. So, I mean, this looks like the new Elijah Craig bottle. This is a typical Kilchoman bottle. And the only real differences on there is that it'll have your name or logo or whatever, or any design you want somewhere on it. And it says bottled exclusively for you. And you are responsible for buying all 150 to 400 plus bottles, depending on how much come out of the barrel. And the great thing about it is you don't know how much you're gonna get when you sign on the dotted lines.
But fortunately, you have a pretty good idea of what it's going to taste like. And,
Oh, absolutely.
And that's probably the most enjoyable part of the exercise. So the first one that we did was this Kilchoman barrel, which is a distillery on the island of Isla. We were fortunate enough to have been able to put that together, and my father and I were over in Scotland last year, and we were able to go by the distillery and sample a whole bunch of different barrels that they'd set up for us. And my father and I picked out the 4 best and brought them back, and Brian, our other partner Robert, and I all spent some serious time tasting and really contemplating the different flavors that we were experiencing in those 4 different samples. And it was surprisingly a very tough decision. I guess not so surprisingly, because Kilchoman puts out a lot of really great product, and you expect some great consistency from cask to cask, which we did experience. But there was something that really just stood out in this one bottle that this one barrel that we ended up going with.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was kind of laughing there. I want to say off camera, but I think I'm on camera.
Definitely.
So I was laughing a little on camera there because it was not only a lengthy process for us. I mean, not just sending Tim over there and Tim selecting through a couple.
It's a tough job.
And bringing back his kind of top 4, but then the 3 of us, Tim, Robert, and myself, kind of sitting down and trying to figure out of those 4, which one did we like. Robert and I initially did it blind like Tim, so we didn't know age statements. And I think that's important in picking is trying not to be biased as to age statements, because I think that no matter what, all of that is going to play into it at some level.
And that's something you learn really quick, is that age is not a definer of the quality that you're going to find within.
What? Are you
Right?
kidding me?
That's a 30-year-old bottle.
I thought every 30-year-old whiskey's supposed to taste like heaven.
No, you find out real quick that's not the case.
Well, and and that's the interesting point here, right? And so, Elijah Craig,
23. Let's talk about old barrels that don't taste good.
Well, I mean, I think when you think about it, right, Elijah Craig, the age statement of it being a 12-year, it's now gone away. It's predominantly 8 to 12 still that goes into making up their small batch. But everyone kind of really, and I do love the 12. And it was a very solid, great entry-level bourbon. And, Kilchoman is a very young distillery, so they weren't making a whole lot of old stuff. So we were expecting that the barrel we selected for the Kilchoman, we would gravitate a little bit more towards the younger selections, just simply because we liked them. And for the Elijah Craig, we would gravitate to some of the older samples. And it was kind of the opposite, I think, what happened. This is a 9-year. And this was a 6-year.
Yeah, and one of the biggest discussion points that Robert, Brian, and I had when we were trying to select the Kilchoman barrel was the final 2 that we came down to. One was very similar to the releases that they'd had to date, whereas the other one was something that was completely out in left field as compared to what people had experienced from Kilchoman to date. And so I was of the mind that we wanted to put out to market something that people could have a reference point on. Whereas Brian and Robert were thinking that, hey, we have a chance to put something out there that nobody's ever really tasted before. So it doesn't matter. They know the distillery's putting out great quality whiskey. So let's put something out that, is super unique.
Right.
And that's where we ended up with this 6 year that we have right here.
Well, and I think when the four that Tim brought over, the 4 samples Tim brought over were all amazing. I think that we were able to kind of, through 2 weeks, narrow it down to 2. And then through another week of kind of, lively civil discussion, discuss which
polite
one
way
of those,
to put it.
Yes, discuss which way we wanted to go with it. I don't think we could have gone wrong with either approach, but, there's not a whole lot of single barrels out there, and we'll get into why or that in a brief second. But one of the things that we wanted to do was this Kilchoman is really the only publicly available single barrel Kilchoman in the DC market, and so we really wanted to let people know, hey, Kilchoman's making some really great stuff, but also some really unique stuff.
Don't they have some single barrels actually that they do on their own though? Do they not do a single barrel?
They do.
They have some vintage barrels. I think they have some vintage
what it
program
is?
where they
Yeah.
identify certain years
Trying to
in
release
which
older
they were
barrels.
distilled.
Right.
Yep.
And I know, Jack Rose here in DC partnered with Delilah's, another huge
remember
whiskey
that.
bar out in
Chicago?
Chicago. And so they kind of bought a barrel and split it, and so half went to Chicago and half went to DC. But those are only available at either of those establishments.
Splitting those makes sense though, because what did you say? So total cost for getting a barrel from Kilchoman, so you're getting it shipped from Scotland, you're getting all those, they're bottling it there, they're shipping all the bottles here. Total price
About $19,000. So it's a big price point. 220 or so bottles. So you're looking at about $90 a bottle.
Yeah, it
My
was about
math is
$90
good
a
there.
bottle. And then, with our partnerships with a great retailer here in DC, Magruder's up in Chevy Chase.
Still a few of them left. If you want to go pick one up.
They shameless plug. They
there's no shame there.
no, not at all. They work with us, and so we went out with to all of our fans, all of our members, and we really kind of pushed it, and so we were able to pre-release it. I mean, just a little over cost.
I mean, these are both mine. I purchased these. Because
Right.
You guys had your pre-release, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And again, getting to see your guys' name on each of these
Yeah.
bottles, and on the
That's
bottom
one of the coolest
crates.
things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool
Very,
in and
very
of
cool.
itself.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very cool, and I mean, and I
Something
think,
we're proud of.
Oh, very
It's
proud
something
of.
we've
I
really.
mean, for 20 grand, I'd want my name on the bottles too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Side
I
note.
think that was I mean, and it's on the box. The box that this one came in. Had it up in the front. It had our logo kind of in the background on the back. It was a very, very, very awesome packaging job that they did for us. But I think that's the way that we did and wanted to push out a single barrel program again was to present to the larger whiskey community and the larger community here in the DC area the opportunity to buy these, because so many times the way that most people go out and buy single barrels is they get their friends together and they go out and they buy that barrel through the distillery. And so, you get a group of 5, 10, 15, 20, however many, guys and gals you need to defray the cost over those people.
Yep.
And then they all take them home. And that's how it works.
And nobody ever gets to
And
taste it.
nobody ever
Yeah.
really gets to taste it. And so we really wanted to,
Make it more widely available.
Yeah, and use our, partnerships with the various bars and restaurants in the area, with the, with Magruder's up in DC.
And the different whiskey groups.
And the different whiskey
in
groups.
the DC
That's
area.
a lot of risk that you guys have taken on, though, because you're taking something that normally is just for a specific core clique of people who've gotten together to buy this, and you've taken it and you've made it available to the public.
Correct. Yeah.
On one hand, it's like, that's really cool because it's available to the public, and on the other hand, that's a heck of a risk because what if other people don't like it?
Yep.
Then we're drinking a lot of Kilchoman and Elijah Craig for the
Fortunately, we like it, so we're
next- for the
willing to
next
do
10
that.
years.
And that's that's the most important thing, and I think that's why a lot of those groups that get together to do it just keep it to themselves because they know they like it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's important, but at the same time, like, honestly, if other people could pick barrel picks like this, because I've had bad barrel picks, honestly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There are a couple stores in DC that I'm not going to name names on that I've had their store picks, and I know a lot of people on bourbon forums are like, oh, you got to get the store picks.
Right.
I've had some horrible store picks, but when I ask them, how do you pick your store pick? they're like, oh, we just get all of the employees in the store, whether they're whiskey fans or not,
right.
to try a little and see which one they like.
You have to have a really small focus group making
Yeah.
that decision. People you trust, people who have similar palates.
Right.
And that's what we were fortunate enough to be able to do.
Well, I mean, I think a similar appreciation, right? So, I mean, I think that when you talk about the Kilchoman, I think one of the reasons why it works so well and that it was so well received. That was exactly the word I was looking for.
That's why I'm here, Brian.
Was because Tim and I kind of approach it from two separate vantage points, right? Tim is definitely our Scotch expert. I focus a lot on the bourbons and ryes, and so what this is it's a 6-year, peated whiskey, but it was matured solely in an ex-Bland's barrel, and so that sugary vanilla,
sweet peat flavor
sweet
profile,
goodness, comes out. So it kind of straddles that line. Obviously, the peatiness of it kind of pushes it more towards, and it is a Kilchoman, into the Scotch realm. But I think that by combining our palates and working to kind of create something or pick something rather that's balanced, that we both really like. We know that the larger whiskey community should, and the difference rather with the Elijah Craig is that by the time we selected that, the company had grown, and we had also wanted to partner with some other people. So we went to Bourbon down on 18th Street in DC, and we had the samples brought in there, and using or adding rather their GM Jess and their owner James as part of our tasting group. And then by that point we had also had Greg, who is a huge bourbon fan. The group of us kind of sat down. I feel like it was a little easier. I felt like this one just stood out as a very great whiskey. It was also surprising though that out of all the ones we tasted, this was the youngest. It came in at 9 years, and I mean,
because age doesn't always matter.
It doesn't.
That's such an important thing to remember. Age doesn't always matter. Price definitely doesn't always matter.
No.
Those things don't always.
But I mean, that was one of the other things, is that we were much more comfortable taking the risk that you described with the Elijah Craig. Obviously, Elijah Craig versus Kilchoman, just their standard product lines that you can see in the store. The Elijah Craig, we mentioned Kilchoman was around 19,000. I think the Elijah Craig was closer to between 3,000 and 4,000.
Yep. So much more approachable.
A lot more comfortable. I mean, neither one is ideal. I mean, it's a
So
risk.
if you're not sure, stick with America if you want to buy a barrel.
Well, and you get to keep the barrel. So that was the nice thing with Elijah was
got some great
we also
pictures.
got to keep the barrel. We took it on a little bit of a road show around DC in front of the Capitol and the Jefferson and the Washington.
I remember seeing those
monuments.
pictures on your Instagram. Those are hilarious.
Yeah.
Because I was like, wait a minute, do they actually have a physical barrel?
Oh
like,
yeah.
in front of the Washington
We
Monument. I was
did.
like,
We did.
Yeah, so
what's happening?
it's surprising what you can do at 8 o'clock in the morning
On a weekend.
on a weekend with a bunch of guys rolling a barrel down the mall before Secret Service gets you. And so let's not do that again. But we might anyway. The other cool thing is that we got the barrel, so we got to reuse it, and so it's sitting at Right Proper Brewery right now with beer in it, and it's been there since February. So we should probably check on that.
Let's do that, Brian.
Yeah.
So what would you guys do differently if you had to do it all over again? What would you do differently?
Question.
I think we're
Or
actually
would you do this exact same thing?
well, and we are, right?
Yeah.
So we've got some more that we're working on right now. You guys will just have to keep your eyes open and keep up on your social media, and you'll see as things start to come your way. But I think we wouldn't change anything about the approach that we took on either of these, because we're very pleased with the way that they turned out. I think we now have a little bit of a better understanding of what it takes to get a barrel into DC, and so we'd be a little bit more armed with that information in the future. But as far as our first and second tries at it, I think we're pretty glad with how it turned out.
Yeah, I think what Tim said, we would just be a little bit more prepared to know what comes next, right? So we wouldn't be scrambling to figure out, we have a barrel, what should we do? I mean, I think we would have all that kind of stuff.
We
lined
know
up.
what we want to do.
I think that we would also, it was fun going. Obviously, it's a very small core group picking out the Kilchoman and a little bit larger group picking out the Elijah. I think that we would maybe expand a little bit, and maybe we'd bring in some other people to help us, or just to get their input and their thoughts on it. I mean, I think that we would have to act as a little bit more of a filter. But
you want to incorporate as many people's opinions as you can.
Yeah,
That's awesome. All right, so where can people find you guys?
So we're online at whiskeylibrarydc.com, and we're also on Instagram at whiskey_library_DC.
Thanks.
Love that handle. All right, so yeah, so if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, I don't know why you'd have concerns. Maybe you
Shouldn't have concerns if you want to know where to get it.
Were any barrels harmed in the shooting in this video? If you
They're
guys
all
have any-
safe, guys. They're all in
They're
our
all
bellies.
safe. They're all in our bellies.
Oh, that's the best place to store them. Make America drink again. All right, if you guys have any questions or comments, just go ahead and throw them down below, and we'll definitely get back to you on those. So yeah, thanks guys.
Slàinte mhath.
Slàinte mhath.
Cheers.